don't want to open their hearts, and of course, using the Bible whenever it's convenient for her. Now, Nancy Pelosi says that she believes the U.S. government should look at the children like baby Jesus, who she added was a refugee from violence. So according to Pelosi, they are baby Jesus once they are born, illegally entering the country. But until then, when they're in the womb, no, they do not matter. It's only when they are illegally entering the country. Nobody cares about fetus Jesus. He wasn't the savior while he was in Mary's womb. No, up until then, he didn't matter. But I digress. Now, it's not just arbitrary use of this moral high ground to go ahead and divide and conquer this country. There's the old tried and true tactic of racial division. And now we have a new race baiter in chief. This is Rep. Luis Gutierrez. Gutierrez has been one of the biggest proponents of a pathway to citizenship for all of the country's illegal immigrants. And just last week, he told La Raza in LA to get amnesty to punish Americans who are against illegal immigration. He said, "We need to raise our voices, make ourselves citizens, sign up to vote, and punish those who speak ill and criminalize children who come to our border." So here we have him basically saying, punish those who want to uphold the law of this land, rather than say, impeach those who fail to uphold their oath to protect this nation's borders. But he's also just underscoring what we have been telling you. This whole thing is about flooding the country with undocumented Democrats who are gonna vote full totalitarian government. This is absolutely La Raza race baiting right now to divide and conquer. But here again, they're only focusing on the children as pawns in their political game. But according to experts who are actually witnessing what's going on at the border, all of these illegal border crossings, they're saying that the vast majority of these illegal immigrants are not unaccompanied minors.
We're focused on the unaccompanied children represent some 12 to 20%. We're focused on that 80%, the 85%, of which a quarter, according to the Border Patrol, have a criminal record. Since 2008, we've had 642,000 crimes in Texas committed by illegal aliens, 3,500 murders. Lou, when is enough enough?
Now, Texas Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst said that he'd already given up on the federal government and that the focus should be on securing the border. And that is why Texas has deployed the National Guard.
I'm Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs with INFOWARS.com at Camp Mabry in Austin, Texas. This is the Texas State National Guard base. This is the main spot where everybody mobilizes from. They coordinate all the National Guards throughout the state. Yesterday, the Governor Rick Perry said that he will be mobilizing 1,000 troops to go to our borders. So I came out here to ask the public affairs officer what their mission's going to be, when they're going, and what all they're going to be bringing for this mission. When I got out here, I was unable to get an interview with the PAO, but I did get this press release right here from one of the people that work inside the PAO office. And what it states is that 1,000 soldiers will be deploying, but it'll be within the next 30 days. They have to do their PMCSs, which is check their vehicles, and they need to make sure that everything's fully mission capable for the mission. And what the lady told me there, she said that DPS is the one calling the shots for this mobilization of National Guard forces to our border. So what we're going to try to do is coordinate, get another meeting up here with them. We'll keep you more informed on this issue with our Border Patrol and the National Guard being sent down there. I'm Joe Biggs. Back to you, Leanne.
Well, coming up, people laughed when zoologists suggested that animals could have mental health disorders just like humans, calling it anthropomorphism. But are we treating humans even worse than animals?
Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield True Nascent Iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund INFOWARS.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at INFOWarsLife.com.
There's a new book that's come out. It's called Animal Madness: How Anxious Dogs, Compulsive Parrots, and Elephants in Recovery Can Help Us to Understand Ourselves. Now, the interesting thing about this book is that rather than looking at drugs being tested on animals, it takes drugs that have first been, of course, tested on animals, then used routinely on humans, and now have gone full circle back into the zoo. And so it provides us some interesting insights. And of course, in reviews, people have talked about anthropomorphism. In other words, projecting human characteristics onto animals. I say to speak of mental illness in animals requires a degree of anthropomorphizing, or this is a humane, insightful, beautifully written book. Animal Madness gives anthropomorphism a good name. What about anthropomorphism in reverse? Yes, are we treating humans like animals? Let's take a look at a couple of the excerpts from the book, but before we do, there's also another school of thought in how we control animals, and that, of course, is the B.F. Skinner behavioral modification school. We use positive operant conditioning to control the animals. Skinner's techniques are actually a humane way to communicate with and to control animals. The problem arises with the reverse anthropomorphism, when Skinner starts to treat humans as animals, devoid of freedom and dignity. Of course, much of our government's interaction with everyone from children in schools to airplane travelers with TSA is based on positive operant conditioning. In other words, let me touch you wherever I want, and I'll reward you with allowing you to get on a plane. Now, of course, the other popular way to control people is with pharmaceuticals.
If Mr. McMurphy doesn't want to take his medication orally, I'm sure we can arrange that he can have it some other way.
Brightman's book gives us some perspectives on that. Now, Thorazine, of course, was first tested on rats, and what they found was that even though rats could easily climb up a rope to get to some food, once they put them on Thorazine, they couldn't be bothered. Even when they knew a shock was coming on, they would just sit there. What happened when they gave Thorazine to a gorilla in the zoo? This is a gorilla that was going to have to be relocated to a very small cage for a period of 6 months while his usual habitat was repaired. So what they did to help him cope was what any good psychiatrist would do. They put some Thorazine in his Coke. What did that do for him? Well, the zookeeper said he shuffled back and forth across his cage with dulled eyes. It was a little like watching the men in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now, a review of her book that's on Wired.com today covers a couple of interesting anecdotes entitled, Even the Gorillas and Bears in Our Zoo Are Hooked on Prozac. They look at what happens when we take these drugs that we've now approved for massive use on humans and then turn around and use them on animals in the zoo. Gus, the famous polar bear from the Central Park Zoo, was put on Prozac because he was swimming for 12 hours a day. Now, as an aside, that's what polar bears do. They range over hundreds of miles, and of course, that's why you see all these pictures of polar bears sitting on ice floes looking like they're forlorn, like their habitat is melting. No, they range over several hundred miles a day. So this polar bear was swimming 12 hours a day, and they said that that is 0.00009% of his usual habitat. But of course, instead of giving him a larger habitat, which they couldn't do, they put him on Prozac to try to control his behavior. Now, some of the zookeepers who were using psychopharmaceuticals on these animals were curious if other zoos were doing the same thing. Half of the 31 institutions throughout the U.S. and Canada that responded to their survey had used psychopharmaceuticals on their gorillas. But here's the interesting thing about it. They said no one is going to admit it. Why are they ashamed of the fact that they're using psychopharmaceuticals on animals in the zoo, and they're not ashamed of using it on humans? And of course, that's the real question. The new reboot of the Planet of the Apes series has big pharma experiments going out of control with devastating consequences for humans. But the reality is that big pharma has been out of control for a long time, and with devastating consequences. These drugs are now being prescribed even for animals in the zoo, are being used so prolifically on humans that they're showing up in our water supply as well. And of course, one of those consequences for society is the connection between psychopharmaceuticals and mass shootings. If the primates in the zoo are on Prozac, Zoloft, etc., just make sure you don't give them the guns. We know what those drugs motivate people to do.
Well, that sounds a lot like an actual prison planet. At least the animals can see the cages that they're in. Well, with more on that is Jakari Jackson. Jakari, maybe they should start handing out these Prozac subscriptions with your new phone plans.
You might as well, because, as Aldous Huxley said, he's trying to get people to enjoy their servitude. And, the thing about this is because if you try to get people, force it on people to carry around some little tracking device, let's say 50 years ago, you said, I'm going to have you carry around a box that records your conversations, your text messages. Well, they didn't have text messages back then, but your old-fashioned letter writing, and we're going to record all that and put it into a big database. People would have said no. But if you make it trendy, if you give them apps and you let them download music and so forth, people jump at the chance. They'll spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars and wait in line for hours just to get these little Imperial probe droids. And now we have this. Verizon offers free gifts to customers who consent to surveillance. And as the article points out, the tracking program is called Smart Rewards. If you just allow Verizon to monitor your web surfing, your app usage, your location data, and then they'll bless you with travel vouchers and all kinds of little goodies. But, these type of programs are nothing new, because we've seen back in 2011, it was being reported by Computer World, snooping, it's not a crime, it's a feature. So they're trying to say that, it's the hip thing to do, it's the trendy thing to do, all your friends are doing it, you don't want to be the last guy caught up in this spin cycle. And it says that they will use apps on your microphone, on your cell phone, to listen in to your personal life. And you may be one of these people, you say, well, I have nothing to hide, I'm not doing anything illegal. And okay, that may be the case. You may not be a drug dealer, you may not have dead bodies in your basement, but that doesn't mean that you have some personal information that you don't want the world at large to be abreast of. So let's talk about this. Edward Snowden has come out and said that the NSA snoops are sharing your intercepted sextings, which means if you had a little nasty conversation or you're sending your naked selfies back and forth, the NSA has this and they're trading this stuff around like playing cards. And this is the world we live in, a world where people are saying, the pundits are on the big news channel saying, thank goodness for the NSA.
That's the latest data points. At the end of the day, this is a time where the citizens around the world are going to be very happy for the NSA, because they're going to be scarfing up these telephone calls. They're going to be able to analyze this data. They'll be able to determine, most likely, some of the communications that went on after the crash happened, which will probably clarify the picture in the days to come.
So thank goodness, Leanne, that we have all this technology. Thank goodness that there are people looking over our shoulder and watching our every move. And now we see this article. This came out a few years ago. CIA chief will spy on you through your dishwasher, because people think it's, it's just the cell phones, it's just the laptops. It goes much further than that, because they have the smart fridges that tell you when you're out of milk. They have the smart dishwashers and all these things. And people say, why? Why all this technology? Why all this spying? I can't think like these people think, so I can't give you a definitive answer as to why. I'm just telling you that it is going on. And we'll end the segment with this. We see CNN now. Your TV might be watching you. And in this clip, the CNN analyst, she's talking to a security advisor, security expert, and he's saying, we're in the world today, or you're to the point where you actually have to put tape over your computer, over your TV set. Leanne, back in the day, if you put tape over your computer, over your phone, over anything, people said, oh, you're a kook, you're crazy, and maybe they still do. But in this, even CNN now is admitting that, hey, it's not all it's cracked up to be. You don't want to be caught up in this surveillance system.
Right, and Alex has been reporting about this for a very long time. People used to make fun of him when he would say, put tape over your computer.
Yeah, because we'd have people come in, the writers from, big magazines or whatever, they come in and do profiles on us. and they would see, you know, we have tape over the laptops and other things. They say, why do you guys do that? And he would tell them, like, yeah, they can spy on you, you know, through all this stuff.